All right, so in this video, I'll talk about why subagents are relevant and why do people use them in AI coding harnesses like OpenCode, Cloud Code, Codex. So the main reason why people use subagents are they don't want to clutter their main context. So there are certain tasks, small tasks or bigger tasks, there exist, and they use subagents to do those and get the output, and because the output is the only relevant thing in that session. What I mean with that is, let's say that you want to implement something with a library and you want to know how to actually integrate authentication in your app, and the only answer that you need for that is the how to do that in the code, right? That's just like enough. But if you let the agent go discover and do a bunch of things to do that, it will use a lot of context in your main context, and which is not something that you want to have. What you do is you spawn a session, a different fresh session with that task only, with the relevant context, with the relevant prompt, a nice prompt that comes from main session. The main session is usually gets these skills, tools to do these. It's extra work, by the way. It could also confuse some of the models as well. But anyway, that's not the point here. And that's the point of sub-agents. Well, some people are not really preferring that. What would they do? They would still have the idea of sub-agents, but manually. What I mean with that is, so as I said, they would have like these, yeah, they want to, let's say again, let's give the same example. They want to implement authentication in a library. They would open a new session, work on that, understand it, right? This is where they are understanding it. There are a lot of context here. Now they know, let's say that they're like at the 30K context window, right? And they understand how to do that. What they do is, okay, now write all your findings in a .markdown file. Now we know that, right? Now we have a findings output that we can use in this application, and they create a new session to use that knowledge. So basically, they're using sub agents manually. I mean, this is done by a lot of people, and this has a lot of flexibilities, pros and cons as well. But still, some people would still prefer using sub agents for this. And usually, you also see that like I have to say this, there's a let's say pattern that usually we'll see more experienced people that know what they're doing, they would use this manual approach, right? They would talk to a lot of these agents and they would get the context out of them and they would save it till they're done with all that context building. I mean, there was this paradigm also called like context engineering, right? So it was like harness engineering, sometimes people were calling AI engineering, and then it became like context engineering. So you build up the context, so to say. All right, so that's about it, right? That's why subagents are relevant. Some people use it, some people don't. Anyway, let's not really lost with that. Okay, so I will now show actually way of using sub-agents manually in PyCoding agent, because in PyCoding agent you don't have actually sub-agents, right? So it's not really built into the harness. So one thing is I will now show is basically let's actually ask something simple. What this repo is? What is this repo? Very simple, right? So let's actually wait for it to return something. It will actually read some of the files. Okay, it will give me soon an answer. So what I can do is, let's say I want to direct the model to somewhere else. At this scenario, I could use subagents, right? So I could just say delegate a subagent to explore the, let's say, yeah, let's say this one, file, right? I could do this. Obviously, this is not the case in PyCoding agent. What I will do is basically split fork. This creates a copy of this session into another session. It's like parent session. This became child session to this session, and now basically I have copy of that session. Now I can discover something here, you know. Uh, Obviously, I won't say delegate. I will say uh, explore to give more context, for example, right? So that this is basically doing subagents manually. Now I know what this explore.typescript file. Now what I can do is either let it, okay, write it to a markdown file, add, I don't know, docs, something somewhere, right? And then I can reference that here to let this agent know about that without it being going exploring all of that details that I explained, the reason why people use subagents. So this is one method. And I also built this simple, let's say, extensions in PyCoding agent that allows you to spawn a lot of sessions. Now we will take a look at that. And the nice thing about it also is that you let the agent do this. So in this prompt, I'm letting it to spawn grid feature to spawn 2 by 3 grid to ask something that it will allow each session to answer a simple question. In this case, I'm answering a simple question, but you can imagine that you can use a bunch of different models to explore different things in 6 sessions, and then you can get all that answer and synthesize it into your main session. Let's actually see that, how that works in action. This feature or extension works only with Ghosty macOS setup. That's also another detail. Okay, so you opened it in my another window. Now we opened a session here, the exact spot, right? To answer simple questions. I mean, like these are simple questions, right? So what is 2 by 2? 2 plus 2. Just answer that number. Okay. So just for showing purpose, right? This still goes. And you can see that these are different models, right? I can also have that flexibility, let's say. Pretty cool, right? So you can ask a lot of different questions in different sessions given what you had. So it gives you that more flexibility to actually discover certain things with maybe less capable models or more capable models, whatever you want to do. Okay, so there's also like this, let's say gather. Gather basically brings all that context into your session. Let's do that. Okay, so we gather 7 results into context. In order to see that, you have to do this. Okay, so basically it went to child sessions, right? And let's see. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so it kind of like went to those sessions and bring all the context here, right? It's cold. What was the opposite of hot? Was one of the questions. It's cold. 7. All the answers here. No response yet. I think one of them has died. That's why I didn't get the response. But anyway, that's not really important. So as you can see, you have the possibility to actually do practice the sub agents in a different way. Not really a lot of influence on the agent, main agent, with tools, skills, and context, but I would say more intuitive. There is still, we're using a tool here, but let's say that there are not a lot of features running on the background for this to run, right? It's a very simple extension. Okay, that will conclude the video. I'll see you in the next one.